Welcome to Mel's Diner, a place where stories and songs build community and connections. My name is Matthew Merson, and each guest at Mel's Diner heads over to the Jukebox, selects really important, sentimental, and valuable songs to them, and then shares those stories of how each song gained that personal and powerful meaning in their life. So let's order some food, a cup of coffee, and grab a seat at the counter and listen to some of those amazing stories and songs. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome into Mel's Diner, my friends. I'm so glad you are here. We have an amazing interview that you're about to hear in just a few minutes. My friend Mitch, he stopped in the diner this week and chose some amazing tracks, and really his stories that go along with these tracks. They are just so moving, so incredible. We had a great conversation. He appreciates music in a different way than I do. You'll hear him talk about how, especially when he was a teenager or growing up, how music and where music fit into his world, and even where music fit into the world in general, was a real passion for him, and it got him some pretty cool stuff. He'll talk about how he was actually a beta tester for the streaming service Spotify, which is really crazy. That he was invited to be that way just because of his influence on music and music blogs and things like that. Just a really great conversation. Mitch is going to talk a lot about his family, his mom and his dad. I'm not going to I'm going to let him tell those stories, but just phenomenal music choices, phenomenal stories. Yeah, it was just a real treat to hear him talk about all this stuff. We talk a lot about the philosophy of music and how it affects us and how music can help build relationships, which is hopefully why you're here at Mel's Diner, to find connections between people, maybe people you've never met, to hear their stories and hear their songs, and to build community through these connections. That's why Mel's Diner exists, so we can have this stuff, from all over the world, hopefully. But if you're listening, before we get into the show, if you're listening and you would like to be on the show, feel free to reach out to me. Mel's Diner Jukebox at gmail.com. I'd be happy to correspond with you over email. We can set up a time to talk, or if you're local here in the Charleston, South Carolina area, we can meet up or have this conversation in person. It'd be awesome. So before we get into Mitch's interview, we're going to talk about Mel's picks. So there's 5 songs with this week's episode that I picked out. And you can find Mel's picks as well as Mitch's picks in the show notes. So both playlists, there's going to be a Spotify link and there's going to be an Apple link. So whatever you subscribe to, whatever your service of choice is, you can listen to these songs through those. For Mel's picks, we have, the first one is Mickey Newberry, Why You Been Gone So Long. So this is a 1973 track. This is just amazing kind of alt country, 70s country music. Great vibe, great slide guitar or dobro, I think is what it is. Great vibe. It was also sung and covered by Jesse Coulter. But I love this track by Mickey Newberry. After that, we're going to go to Thomas Dolbaum, which is Blue Meets Blue. And this is off of his latest album. Just came out a few weeks ago. This is the final track on this album, Birds of Paradise. Incredible kind of, I think he's from New Orleans, or a Midwestern guy that lives in New Orleans. But just an amazing sound, Americana, rockabilly almost sound. Blue Meets Blue, it's a great track. Then we're going to hear A Desolate Angel's Blues from the remastered version of Yuma by Justin Townes Earl. This is off his 2007 EP. And I was just this week, I was just driving around and listening to a lot of Justin Townes Earl, a lot of his older tracks, or just listening to, on Spotify, the This Is playlist. And this song just stopped me in my tracks. It's a very simple song, very simple chord progressions, but really beautiful. I mean, there's a saying in music, I guess, you need 3 chords and the truth. That's all you need to make some really great music. And this A Desolate Angel's Blues is exactly that. There's a great YouTube video of him playing this live. He dedicates this to, I want to say that it's probably his grandfather, who maybe raised him with. It's just a great song, just raw emotion. I love this track. So, A Desolate Angels Blues by Justin Townes Earl. Then we're going to do A Round of Applause at the End of the World by an artist named Wild Pink. Now, this track is coming off of his upcoming album, which is going to drop August 21st of 2026. This is the first track off of this album, and I cannot wait for this whole album. This song is so cool. Yeah, when I first heard it again, I love these songs that just stop me in my tracks. I listen to a lot of music while I'm working, and some of it just, is in the background. But every now and then these songs kind of come up to the forefront, and I have to stop. I have to hit replay. I have to really pay attention and listen because there's something special about it. And this one did it for me this week. Round of Applause at the End of the World by Wild Pink. And then track number 5 is another 2026 track by Damian Wardo. Just go down the rabbit hole of Damian Wardo's music. There is so much. It's astounding how much music this guy puts out and has been putting out since the 90s. But this is off of a 2-song, I don't know if it's an EP or whatever, but this one's called Cheryl's Cake. And man, this song just is mesmerizing. It's beautiful. The piano, his voice, it's jammy. I don't know. It's awesome. I'll let you decide if, what you think or how you would describe this song, but I really, really like this one. So Cheryl's Cake by Damian Wardo. All 5 of these songs, like I said, are in the show notes, or the link to the playlist are in the show notes. And you can also listen to Mitch's playlist right there in the show notes as well. So there you have it. There are Mel's picks this week, all very similar vibes, kind of rock, kind of alt country, a little bit more heavier Americana music. I hope you like it. I really like these tracks. I think they go well together. And yeah, it's going to be great. So, all right. Well, with that, we are going to jump into Mitch's interview. Thanks for visiting Mel's Diner. Make sure you listen to Mitch's songs after this conversation. I know you're going to love it. Welcome to Mel's Diner, my friend.
Good to be here.
I am so glad you just walked through these doors.
Yeah, I'm smelling the burnt coffee and the maple syrup and the waffles already.
Well, we assume that's what. Hopefully, you brought your own syrup. Honestly.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. Let's grab a seat. Why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you? Where are you from? Where did you just drive in from?
My name's Mitch. I'm calling from Richmond, Vermont. Let's say I just got back home after a long road trip, stopping at the diner, chatting with Mel. We know each other from many years ago. I think we were just reminiscing on that. 2018 is when we parted ways physically. We've been connected soulfully and digitally ever since.
Exactly, not spiritually. Yes.
Yeah. We were both living in Burlington for a while with our families, and had a few wonderful short years getting to do life together.
What does music mean to you, Mitch? Like is music a part of your life now? What is it? What does your love for music look like now?
Yeah, music's been a through line since the very beginning. I'll walk backwards with some of the significance of music. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, music's a huge part of my life. I'm really into music. And I always feel this extra level of depth and like the grounding that it gave me throughout my life. Right now, I work a desk job, a job that takes a lot of my mental focus, and a lot of music has been a means of managing my focus and my neurodivergence. And it's been a really different exploration of music, of actually like leaning into it as therapy and understanding what types of timing and keys and cadence and genres like allow me to like work while still absorbing the spectrum of music. I find myself really needing to lock in, and songs and types of music I used to listen to, I get too sucked into the music, which has been very novel for me. That's like not something I've ever experienced. Also comes from my own personal healing and my own journey of understanding myself and understanding my tendencies and getting a adult ADHD diagnosis in life and understanding some of the things that make me who I am and expanding that context for that. So it's been really cool to see music as a specific therapy treatment tool, another way to experience life as fully human. That's like current state. You kind of shift back a past decade, and I was at every live music event I could possibly get to, spending money in a really irresponsible way. That was like
Well,
the thing I needed to do. Um, but honestly, going back to being a kid, my dad was really passionate about country music. He raised us like we were under a country rock, where like we didn't know other music existed. And later in life, looking back on that, that's really comical, but he was really passionate about his music, and we got to share that. But as I was going into my kind of like middle school, junior high era, I really started to discover music for myself and didn't really have a guide. I didn't have anyone in my family in my life at that time who was like helping me navigate genres and artists and radio stations and things like that. In the late 90s, early 2000s, before the world of streaming services and easy access to music, I started to like just kind of chase the earworms. And the first breakthrough I had, I was my dad was a big Garth Brooks fan. Listened to Garth Brooks all the time. And I always loved the songs that had electric guitar in them, and not all of his did. A lot of slide board, a lot of acoustic guitar, a lot of just like focused on vocals. And I always just gravitated towards these very specific songs. And I couldn't put any of them on any of these playlists because Garth Brooks was one of the first anti-piracy advocates. So
yeah.
I own all of the records. But I couldn't put that on the diner, on the jukebox. I'm sure it's on Mel's jukebox because that's where I heard most of those songs when I was young. Yeah.
I have the collector's box set
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Garth
exactly.
Brooks that I got as a Christmas present when I think I was like 11 years old. I still have it to this day.
Yeah,
But anyway,
yeah,
keep going.
totally. And so I always loved like the more alternative rock forward, less country forward songs. I did enjoy country at that time. And then Garth Brooks released Chris Gaines. And at that time, I don't know how old I was. I was not very old. Chris Gaines was the coolest shit I ever heard. And I was like, this is amazing. This is like so soulful and alternative. And I like listened to the album and got really into it. And then one time, one of my dad's friends came over and saw that he had the album, and he literally cracked the CD and threw it out. And he was like, this is dog shit. He's like, Kevin, get rid of this. And so later in life, I now look back at Chris Gaines and the complete like meme that has become, and it makes it even funnier to me that Chris Gaines was my gateway drug to good music.
I have so many questions. So did you know that at the time that Chris Gaines, like that he was Garth Brooks as this?
Yeah. At first it was it was something that my dad tried to like play off that this was not Garth Brooks. And it was like a thing, but it didn't last very long. It would be funnier if I spent years of my life thinking that was a different human. And I just discovered a new artist that they refused to play on country radio.
And if anybody doesn't know the short story, this was a marketing trick, a marketing ploy by these marketing executives.
So before you like expand on that, what I've reflected on as someone who has spent some time professionally in marketing and advertising, and also like I went on a deep dive. One of the superpowers of neurodivergency is the ability to dive deeply into things that do not matter to anyone other than a very small community of people. Deep diving into the Chris Gaines history. I cut you off, but to say Chris Gaines is Garth Brooks, and he literally put a like emo wig with like hair across one of his eyes, had a soul patch, and instead of playing country music, he played like alternative hippie, not hippie, but like a lot of his songs were covers and things that were talking about like breaking the system and loving and all of these things. It wasn't just like your classic country songs. But actually it was a I learned this somewhat recently. It was in that era, record production companies like controlled the artist. They still do, but like to a level where direct to consumer distribution of music barely existed. And so for him to play things that weren't within the lanes of what will make money, he wasn't allowed to do that. So he actually did this thing where he was like, I'll release my artistic side through a different artist name, different record, and that will allow me to do this. And then but like it was like too on the nose of like, this is just Garth Brooks in
Yeah.
makeup and a costume. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there a movie? Like this was like he was gonna be like Chris Gaines was gonna be the star of this movie
Yeah.
essentially it was like the sound or this the idea was like from what I heard was when the
Yeah.
movie came out, like when theaters, people were gonna already know the songs because it
Yeah.
was so good. But
Yeah.
but everyone knew it was well, not maybe not everyone. I don't know, how many
Yeah.
people were like, "Wow, this new artist," but
Yeah.
yeah,
So funny.
yeah. And there's actually I'm going to shout out another podcast, a music podcast, Disgraceland. Um, Disgraceland is about true stories of rock stars, and he does a whole episode on Garth Brooks
That's
and
awesome.
Chris Gaines, and it's pretty
Yeah.
fascinating. But
Yeah. So good.
that's so amazing. But
Yeah.
before we get into your list, I have two questions for you that just kind of came out. So I want to get back to maybe like the country that you grew up on. Was it 90s country? Was it outlaw country from the 70s? What kind of country did you grow up on?
Yeah, great question. There's let me share. There's one last piece to the music history puzzle, which makes Garth Brooks and Chris Gaines also a bit more ironic.
I'm so
Is
glad you're
that
bringing him back. Yeah.
yeah. You can't get rid of them. Once the soul patch enters your sphere of influence, it's in orbit, my friend.
That's
Um,
right.
um, Around that era is when the like world of piracy really took off. That was like Napster and I forget all the other
You're
ones, but
right. You're right. Yeah.
and coming out of that came the world of like the dark web of music through like torrent downloading and all of these sites. And somehow around that time I found my way into that, and was like beta on all of these platforms. And I it's been so long that I even forget a lot of the names of these. I know like waffle.fm was one of them, but it was one where like you had to have a private invite by someone who was on there. You had to like follow forums and be connected in this world and be able to get in. And once you got in, it was like full on piracy of like people uploading their tracks and sharing. And like, that Spotify came out of that as a means to curb illegal use of music. But at a young age, like I said, I didn't really have great guidance around music exploration. Um, but that was this like world that kind of brought tech and brought music exploration together. And it really introduced me to a community of people who are so passionate about music. And I mean, at a certain point, I want to say I had like 6 terabytes or something like that in like
What?
2002 of music that I just was like listening to all the time. And it wasn't just listening to the music, it was like exploring the artist and what you can do effortlessly in Spotify, where you're like, oh, what bands did this artist play in? But like
Right.
you didn't have that. And I would literally sit at my computer, also like flashbacks to neurodivergency before it was understood. I'd sit at my computer and I would rename every single song and every single album to the correct title, case, punctuation, and like organize my music. And there was therapy for me and like going through music and understanding this and then making these connections to this band. But then the front man of this band did this solo project and did this thing and how they're connected to this person. It was a whole world for me. And I met some people that were into this as well. And it was like every single day, like deep conversations about new music and what did we hear. And to this day, I'm still in communication with all of those people and talking about artists. And so like that part of my history, I would talk about that a little bit on some of the songs that I'm adding to the diner or the jukebox index here. But like that's that time in my life, and it's comical coming from like being a big Garth Brooks fan to Chris Gaines was my gateway into good music, and then to like Garth Brooks' absolute nemesis, and now to be on the other side of that. And I even mentioned this to you a couple of days ago, is because I was connected in those torrent communities, those people were seen as like power users and influencers in the music world, and we were the ones who got beta testing invites to Spotify. So in like late 2010, I think it was like January 2011, I was living in New Zealand at the time, and I got an email because I was on a different VPN in a different part of the world that wasn't the US, that was like, hey, welcome to Spotify. If you'd like to be one of the first testers, we need people to do 3 months before we launch publicly in the US. And was like one of the initial launches on Spotify, and to kind of like see this world. And the first time I opened the Spotify platform, to be like, what is this world? Like, this is what I've been trying to like create, and to kind of see music move into that world. And I'll save my thoughts and opinions on where the world of streaming music has gone to this day. And it's super complicated with really great things and really challenging things. But yeah, there's this time in my life where like this was a core of my identity and a core of like my behaviors and part of my daily ritual. And so music runs deep in my veins.
That's incredible. To think you had 6 terabytes, like before, I don't know when the first iPod came out, but before.
It was before then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I got my first iPod like 2006, maybe,
Yeah.
it was color, but I didn't
Yeah.
anyway. That's awesome, man. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Since
I
Spotify
listen.
launched, I haven't touched it, which is crazy. I mean, I don't have it anymore. It's long gone, but like, just to, I mean, even to think about that, and then to see technological obsolescence happen with these, like, that's like the streaming service going from Jukebox through this to streaming service. Like the way we engage with musicians and music is an ever evolving thing. It's a living thing.
Absolutely. And part of what Mel's wants to do is, especially when these conversations, is to, maybe the artists may never hear these stories, but like these artists have touched our lives.
Totally.
These songs have meant something to us. Yeah, that evolving form of how we consume this media. Yeah, this is going to change, but it doesn't change the fact that the artists that are putting out this incredible art is changing the world and changing our lives. And I want to hear about that. But
Yeah,
before
$100%.
I do have one more question, and maybe you can just say what you do. We might have some neurodiverse people, or some people adult ADHD. Like you mentioned that as you work, you find music as therapy. Can you say what you have found helpful? Like maybe who's not in the jukebox, maybe a genre or a type of music, or even like BPM kind of songs. Like what have you found helpful for people that might also find that helpful with their neurodiversity?
Yeah, great question. I have found this is like, I don't know, the best way to put this is like ego death. Like because I care so much about specific types of music and I'm inclusive about music, but I'm particular about what I like. The thing that I found is something that I probably would have scoffed at a past version of me. And so the non-AI generated, like ambient lo-fi it's like the like calming music for anxiety and ADHD. Like it's a thing for me. It works. And so early on in my journey was early in the AI boom. And so discovering that a lot of this music was actually AI generated or just machine learning, computer generated, and in the algorithms of streaming services, pulling potential royalties and listens from real musicians, like just did not sit well with me ethically. And so it's really like also evolving as I continue to shift towards real humans making music and trying to decipher that and trying to continue to find things that fit. The ability to build playlists and to curate your own things and let them be living and is like really powerful. But there's some artists and certain things that work, but it's really not about the artist for me. I've just found that these more lo-fi, some lo-fi covers too of things that's like kind of fun. There's like a grunge 90s one where someone like covers a bunch of songs, and it's like cool to kind of hear those things. There's like, I forget, I should know this artist, but there's one that's a bit more known that's not lo-fi, but it's like, it's two cellos, I think is what it's called, where they like play pop songs, but it's like two cellos and it's like really calm, soulful. But it's like, they'll play Coldplay and Lady Gaga and whatever was on Billboard Top 40 at some point. But like that's been used in the world of massage therapy and acupuncture and cupping for many years, because it's like music that just like helps calm breathing. It helps you connect with like increasing your heart rate variability and getting into coherence and like all of these like physiological things that like the music, there is like data that, especially with like biometrics trackers, like I wear a Whoop strap to kind of see what's happening in my body and see my sleep patterns, like the connectivity to all these things, your breathing, your heart rate, your breath, your nervous system, your lymphatic system, and to the environment around your music. Like it's all connected, and it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's wild when you start really paying attention to that.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I think some people might find that that also works for them, or if they haven't tried
Sure.
lo-fi, ambient, maybe even some atmospheric music. These are
Yeah.
just keywords that you can type in any search
Yeah.
bar and any music platform, and you'll get playlist upon playlist.
Yeah.
I will say this: when I knew you when I was in grad school, and when I was writing my thesis, my master's thesis, I listened to only Native American flute music.
Yeah.
It did something for me. I was
Whatever
able to
hits,
write,
hits.
I was able to
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still listen to,
Yeah.
not frequently, but especially long drives, depending what the scenery is. I
Totally.
lived out west for a while. I would put on, there's a specific album called Creation by this group called Burning Sky.
Yeah.
And it's 4 tracks.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly beautiful and powerful. And to think, like of our First Nations brothers and sisters, and like how
Yeah.
ancient
Yeah.
this music is. It
Yeah.
really is so
Yeah.
incredible. So
Yeah.
no shame in like, oh,
Yeah.
well, this isn't great music or whatever. It's
Yeah.
important music, and it's beautiful, and it moves
Totally.
us. So, yeah.
Totally.
I think we should get into some of the stories here, Mitch.
Let's
Thank
do
you
it.
for sharing all that. But
Yeah.
I will say, we have this jukebox that has every song in the world. Why don't you go over there, pick some songs, and before we do, it is 4:59 p.m. on a Thursday. So what is your diner order? You walked into Mel's Diner. It's almost 5 p.m.
5
What's your
p.m.
order?
I am probably going to try to order either some nice deep fried French fries, where I'm going to load them up with some salt, mix some hot sauce and ketchup together, make a little dipping thing.
Nice.
Probably also this time going to be getting a lightly caffeinated beverage, not heavy caffeine, maybe like a Dr. Pepper or a Coke or something like that. And then if I had a long day, I'd be ordering a chicken and waffles and just loading that up with hot sauce.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Actually, chicken and waffles. Let's make it everything. We can make it everything. Chicken and waffles,
Okay.
French fries, and a Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Coke. Yeah. So,
well, you're there with me, so we're gonna split them.
Yeah, we're gonna split it. So
yeah,
awesome.
Two straws in the Coke too. I want to touch noses.
Yeah, we'll Lady and Tramp one of those fries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We'll meet in the middle, as an old country song would say. Well, all right. What's your first pick for the jukebox?
I've got a list. I thought about an order, and I was like, I'm just gonna go on the fly, see how the conversation goes, and roll with it. So I'm gonna start with one that's more connected to right now for me, and that is an artist by the name of Bob Wagner. The song really doesn't matter. This is more about Bob, and more about the reflection of what this is. The song that I chose is "Richest Man on Earth." The song itself, I just really like, but Bob is a Burlington-based musician, an absolute legend. He plays with Cat Wright. He plays his own solo stuff. This is a song from his upcoming solo album. And so anyways, he's a beloved musician that supports a lot of other musicians, and it's really special. And the reason I picked this song is Vermont. This is a simple one. This is some of the profound nature of the music community and the broader community in Burlington and in Vermont, and just how connected we all are. You and me here, connected to Bob, connected to Fish's roots here, and on a larger scale. But I've gotten to experience Bob's music in person many times, and it's just very, very moving. So Bob Wagner, Richest Man on Earth.
All right. And yes, Vermont is a very special place. to me as well. And if you've been listening to some past recent episodes of Mel's, some of the people have been I've met in Vermont, and they've become so close and so tight knit and so ingrained in my soul. Because Vermont is just it's a hidden gem, and it should probably stay hidden, in your opinion. But it's super cool. So, all right, Bob Wagner, richest man on earth. I love it, man.
Yeah, cool. Next one down the list is artist Chris Thile. This from solo work here, but Chris Thile most known for Nickel Creek, as well as taking over for Garrison Keillor and Prairie Home Companion. The song is Heart in a Cage, which is a cover song. And the reason I chose this is actually a convergence of many things in my life, in my musical career, that has brought community. One being I lived in Minneapolis for a while, and was out there around the time when Garrison Keillor had his very last show, of Prairie Home Companion. And I grew up listening to that show and getting to see an actual show live, and to see JD McPherson play on that stage was like really, really cool. Wow. Just like sitting in a lawn randomly, shoes off, wiggling my toes, listening to a musician, and just like so pure. And so Chris Thile kind of makes me think of Garrison Keillor, but Heart in a Cage song from my growing up, when I really found more of the grunge type music, and kind of helped me pull together a lot of the angst that I felt in life as an adolescent. But the main reason I picked this song is I have many shared playlists with friends where we share music with each other. And one of my good friends, his name is John Carrico. He actually was my soccer coach in high school. He was a math teacher in our school. I grew up in a very small town. Both of my parents were teachers. And John and I became friends more than like mentor-mentee or coach-teacher relationship. I had the privilege of feeling like conversational peers with people much older than me, who really influenced me in such powerful ways. And John is, like, of anyone I know, he's the most passionate and most interested in music and music exploration. He's going to retire as a teacher in the next couple of years, and he's still taking PTO days to drive down to Boston to catch a random show somewhere or whatever. And it's really cool. But we have this playlist that is titled "Oh No, Do I Like Honky Tonk?" And he is not a country music lover, but anytime he knew that I have a soft spot for it. We both had a relationship with my father, as my father who passed away a few years ago, and we'll talk more about that in another song. We have bonded over the joy of remembering him through country music. And so this song, it was one of the first that was dropped on "Oh No, Do I Like Honky Tonk?" And I felt like it was appropriate to be in the jukebox.
Oh, absolutely.
Well put.
That's amazing, man. I was a high school teacher for several years. In fact, some of my students listen to Mel's Diner, and some of them are going to be on the show. But I, we'll introduce them when they get to be here. But I really, really believe in my heart that public educators, or private educators, just an educator in general, college, high school, elementary, whatever, you have the ability to influence so many lives. For better, hopefully often for better, but sometimes for worse. But it's just there's that role in a developing child's life. Maybe someone's home isn't as great, but there are all these situations. But a teacher is so important, and then to have that relationship and that bond with a teacher, with an educator, whether you had it close while you were, well, it sounded like you were as a soccer player, you probably had a good connection with your coach. But even now, like, to call this man your friend, that just is a testament to his ability and his just appropriate love for kids, and just the way that he can influence lives for the better. My son's in 8th grade, and the last 2 years he's had two teachers that are deadheads, like legit deadheads. Older gentlemen,
Yeah.
they have steal your face flags in their classroom and stuff like that. And my son, who is a very young deadhead,
Yeah.
like just they bond over this music, and I love it, and I think
Totally.
it's so important.
For sure.
Yeah,
It
so
transcends. It's such a, I mean, you mentioned it a few times and kind of danced around it in your answer there, but like the thought these days from what we see, the horrors that we see is that there's more inappropriate relationship between teacher and student than there are appropriate and joyful. And to like really think about, we hear the negatives and it's so easy to just think about that, and like we don't pay attention to it, or we forget the vast majority of positives, and just how many people out there are so influenced by teachers who dignify students through something that they can be peers. And the kid, when I was figuring this, figuring my life out, figuring out the joy of music, this was an adult who I respected, who wanted to know what I was listening to and wanted to learn from me. It wasn't like, oh, anything you say, I know. Like there was this level of a level setting that made it empowering, and really like influenced the early building of the foundation of confidence. And like that's powerful.
very powerful. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like you're part of who you are today because of
Absolutely.
those relationships. Yeah.
Yeah.
And teaching is hard.
Absolutely.
Like I get it. Teaching is incredibly challenging.
It sure ain't easy.
Content, whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can be a content master, but the patience that you need to deal with students, like some people have it, some people don't have it, some people lose it. And this is not an education podcast, education system. There are probably other podcasts that you can listen to about that, but the point is the relationships, healthy relationships are they matter, and those connections, and whether it's music or whether it's sports or whether it's art or whether it's mechanics or welding, whatever it is, adults can have influence over people in their lives, and that should be something that is used to better the next generation, to better us all. So
I agree.
All right, track number 3.
All right, track number 3 is connected with track number 4 and 5, and so it's going to be a brief progression here. These next 3 songs, which I'll do them all together, remind me of my father, 3 different eras. And I've already mentioned my dad, already mentioned country music. So the first one starts off comical, and they all change tone. So this is Trashy Women by Confederate Railroad. Anyone who listened to like country radio station in the 90s and early 2000s, you are very well aware of this song. The reason I put it on here is because when I was 11 years old, my father was a teacher. In the summers, he did construction. Him and his friend, who was also a teacher, would build houses and decks and do additions and things like that. And when I was 11, he built the house that my mom now lives in. It was our family house growing up. And so spent an entire fall and summer on the, fall and winter clearing the site, summer and spring building the house and moving into the house by the end of that year. And every day, 107.7 country radio in upstate New York was on, and one of his friends was the electrician, and whenever he came over, he was not a country music fan. He was like an oldies fan, and he heard the song Trashy Women come on the radio, and he, full grown man wearing his full tool belt, running home runs, wiring up the house, literally fell on his back laughing, and he could not believe that this was a song playing on the radio. And my dad did not get why it was so funny, and for the rest of their relationship, it was like the funniest running joke, telling people that Kevin loved Trashy Women, and my mom is the opposite of that. But anyways, it's a very funny song that brings me back to this one of the most informative eras in my life, which is getting to be on the job site building a house that our family lived in. It's like not that many people get that kind of experience.
Yeah, with your dad too.
Yeah, for sure.
Was this he was an oldies fan, so he wasn't wasn't used to music that may have been, pushing certain boundaries or something.
Yeah,
Like he was just,
it was more just like like what the hell are these lyrics? Like like I like my women a little on the trashy side, and he just like could not get over how funny that was, and how country that was.
well, if Hank Williams taught us anything, it was to speak the truth, sing the truth.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Were you
Yeah.
there for this moment? This
Yeah, it
electrician
was.
lying in
Yeah, yeah,
your
yeah,
your
totally.
yard
Yeah,
growing?
just
Wow.
literally rolling around on the ground, holding his gut, laughing because it was just too funny to him.
That's amazing. Yeah, I could
Yeah.
envision these later in life and these friends that just go out, they go out or they're around somebody, go out for a drink or something like that. And yeah, they just bring it up and
Yeah,
the
for sure.
smirks.
That's
Yeah, I love that.
that's the one that this guy would have told Mel the story in front of my dad. Mel would have keeled over laughing at it, and then every time my dad walked in, he would be calling him, trashy women or trash or something like that, and then become
Oh
the
man.
nickname.
Well, and I know you want to keep this going. So what's next here for your?
So next is a song called Coffee Mama by the Bumper Jacksons. This is a little deviation from the genre here with a little bit more soul, a little like New Orleans flair. Um, the reason that this song brings back a memory is my dad was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's when he was 55, very young age, and he was with us for 12 years. After that, he passed away like 2.5 years ago now, and getting to experience having to experience the progression of Alzheimer's is like not easy on anyone, but our family really found ways to find the joy in every season of that. And while he was still able to move his body and walk around, he wasn't quite making sense with his thoughts. His processing was really poor, but he was still joyful and happy. And I spent a short time, a couple months, where before I moved to Burlington, actually, where I moved home and was spent a few months helping my mom caregive for my father and take care of the property. And we just had really precious days. And there was this one moment where this song was on the radio. A big part of my childhood is the Exit, WEXT, which is roots and rock radio, public radio, independent radio, out of Amsterdam, New York, and just an amazing curation of songs. Really great way to explore music. And it was one sunny evening. I was working on something in the garage and was playing the song. And he was kind of like meandering around, just helping him move his body. But he was just kind of outside, beautiful night. And my mom came home from running some errands, and the song popped up on the radio. And she just started dancing with him. And they were just kind of like dancing in the garage. And he just kept hooting and hollering. And there was something about this music that just like got him really, really happy. And anytime there's a line in the song that says something about well, the song is about like a spicy woman, and the lure of that. And there's a point where it says, if you don't watch yourself, she'll kick your ass right on the floor. And he just like cracked up, and I have a video of that actual moment, and it's just a really fond memory of my father.
Oh my goodness, man! Like I've got goosebumps right now just thinking about this, and I don't know how much you want to, um, I, you can get in, you can tell as many details as you want, but can you paint? So you said was this the summer?
Yeah, this was in the summer.
Okay, so a summer
Yeah,
evening, upstate
yeah.
New York.
Upstate New York in the Adirondacks, on a
Okay,
house that he had built, that at that time he had no idea that he built the house that he is, walking around on. The lake's calm. The house is on the lake, which was always a big thing that he wanted to do. He's a big water skier, water sports fan, angler, outdoorsman in general, and just the place is so special. And so yeah, it was just one of those like perfect evenings where it's like the right temperature. There's a little breeze. The bugs aren't out. The sun's golden hour. The sun is low, and just the dog days of summer type day.
and you're in the garage. I imagine this. Well, I know what a garage smells like. Concrete
Yeah,
floor. You're working,
yeah,
probably do something mechanical or something with construction or building something or
yeah,
doing something out there. That's
yeah,
not an indoor job. You're in the garage, so there's
yeah,
oil. There's some
yeah.
some grease somewhere. Your father, who's um, who's living with Alzheimer's at this point, is
Hmm.
just with you, spending time with you, and your mom walks in, and that
Yeah.
moment, this song comes on this. You said it was public radio, or it was like an independent radio station?
Independent radio, yeah,
Okay.
publicly funded, but yeah, an independent radio station. Yeah.
And he's dancing with his wife,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're right there.
Yeah. Just getting to witness love in the purest form where there's no reciprocation. It's present, just like fully there. And it really like, that season of my life really shaped my trajectory and my pace. Before that, I was, um, you know, on a path where I was consuming the world and experiences. I wanted to travel. I wanted to do all these things. I wanted to work on my career, and kind of spending some time at home really grounded me. And like, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. You're not guaranteed a retirement. You're not guaranteed that next adventure. And so if your fulfillment, your loop closing, your dopamine hits, whatever, are because you're doing more and doing these things, like you're destined for your destiny, like is out of your control. But if you can really live in the present, it doesn't mean ignore the grief. It doesn't mean ignore the pain. It doesn't mean to just focus on the joy. It's just like whatever's in front of you, like absorb it. Like that's what matters. And that's a lesson that I'll never forget.
Was your father, did he dance with your mom like in the kitchen often, or was this uncommon, or
Um,
was this a
I wouldn't say that it was uncommon. They didn't. They were very affectionate. My dad loved to dance. My mom not so much. Which also kind of makes that moment a bit more special. But it was just one of those things where like part of, as he was losing his progressing through his condition, as a lot of his like cognitive faculties started to fade, he was still physically fine. And the technical part of Alzheimer's is you actually almost regress intellectually, as if you kind of go back in time. And so he was, virtually, for a lack of more eloquent terms, a toddler. And if you think about the joy of a toddler seeing you just move side to side and act like you're dancing, and they just lock in. And not to patronize or belittle my father, this is a helpful way to understand a complicated thing. That he just like saw the energy. And so my mom was like engaging with him, being like, I'm gonna bring joy to him because I know that he likes this. And he just kind of started bopping around, and she grabbed his hand and just kind of like moved with him, and had to move slow because his balance isn't great. And he was like so into it. And then they kind of like moved around the garage a little bit, and she was just trying to bring temporary joy to him and just like do things that would get him to giggle and laugh. And it did. So.
I'm catching some of that joy in my own way. Like, what a gift that your mom has, like, gave to your dad in that moment. Whether
Yeah,
she realized it or not, a gift that she gave to you. Because
totally.
really, it sounded like this was her that prompted this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And now we're listening to this, and afterwards, we're going to listen to this song and envision that garage or a garage. And what a just spectacular and beautiful, precious memory. And we can get philosophical, and like I love what you said about enjoying the moment, but so glad you were there. I'm so glad you had that radio station on. I'm so glad that DJ played that
Totally.
song, and that
Totally.
this connection that you have. Oh man, that is
Yeah,
just
and
absolutely
that
beautiful.
song brings you back. Everyone's had that experience, whether you're into music or not. There's a song that brings you back to a time and a place and a smell and a feeling and a sense on your skin. And that's one that will do that for me.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And
Yeah.
I know you said these 3 songs, they went from country, this
Yeah.
hilarious. So what's the next one about your dad?
The third song is "Grief Is Only Love" by Stephen Wilson Jr. Um, Anyone who knows the song, anyone who knows Stephen Wilson Jr., anyone who knows his story can understand why this comes next. And so, yeah, lost my dad a few years ago. Was relief after a long battle with a horrible disease. And Stephen Wilson lost his dad a bit more unexpectedly and tragically. Um, you know, Grief is something I had to walk through a lot, and that was not something I was taught. Like, what does grief mean? Like, how do you grieve? It was just something that was somewhat synonymous with sadness and mourning to me, but like it is its own thing. It's its own process. And um, there's a visual that I saw months after my dad passed, as I was dealing with this, of like there's two circles and two different examples, and it was like most people think grief is, here's, you know, this circle, and you lose someone and the circle becomes smaller and you have to rebuild it or you have to navigate or whatever. And then there's this other one that shows like here's current state, and then after losing someone, seeing that new circle much larger. And it's like, oh, actually, like grief is this expansive experience. It's not, life is a zero sum game of emotions and you grieve someone and you lose and you have to build that back, but it actually expands your world. And so this song specifically, Stephen kind of like walks through his grief for his father, and it's a beautiful song, but there's a line in the song that says, I miss my father every day, the kind of pain I pray don't fade away. And that's something that before I learned about grief, I don't think that I would understand that. I would think that it's the kind of pain you do pray away. But yeah, the to be able to cherish that and to be able to walk through grief patiently, say yes to grief, and let that shape who you are, was a profound experience for me. And I anyone who has had loss in their life, if you haven't had loss in your life, Stephen Wilson Jr. crushes it. But if you have had loss in your life, especially a father to a son who was not technically a junior, I know, Matt, you can relate to, you know, the lineage of the patriarchy within your family. I don't know if patriarchy is the right word.
No, I think that's,
yeah. Yeah. And the patriarchal passing on of generations, but to have a father figure, a grandfather that you can look up to, that is someone who you learn from and take away the good and learn from the bad, but is not one that leaves you a better man, not someone that leaves you with trauma to become a better man. You know, I feel like that's an experience that some people can really relate to, that Stephen Wilson Jr. really does. And so, yeah, that's kind of the third song that has a deeper story. And honestly, something I with you specifically, Matt, is that when I first was like really paying attention to his music, I remember actually seeing you at a Stephen Wilson Jr. concert. I think you posted an Instagram story or something like that one time, and I didn't even reach out to you. There was just this moment where I was like, we're connected right now. And to even every time Stephen Wilson Jr. pops up, I straight up think about you as an individual. And, you know, these songs bring other things, but there's like these little things that it's like, there was a moment where I was emotionally in a state in resonance, connected with what was happening. And so that's kind of fully sealed in. And so that's really special to me.
That's beautiful. And I don't think, well, thank you for sharing that. Yes. At his
I don't
show,
think I have ever told you that, by the way.
No, you haven't.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, and when I saw Stephen Wilson Jr. live, he played a show here in Charleston this past spring, and he made the whole crowd know that like he was playing for his dad, you know, and in fact, this whole album, this song comes from, is called Father Son, and it is like, it's so moving. Like, I want to know, like, do you find does this bring joy to you, like, to hear this?
Yeah, it depends on the day. I again, in a previous era of my life, before I like learned the depths of walking through grief, and my father is not the only person that I've lost and grieved, but I learned so much in that process. When you have 12 years to study it and prepare for it, like it's a slow burn. There's something about hearing anything from Stephen Wilson Jr. that makes me feel connected to others who have had the profound life-changing experience of going through the process of grief, whether that's the pain that you want gone instantly, or whether that's the fullness that you feel, and like the line in the song of pain that I don't want to fade. And there's certain songs, like one of his songs, I'm a Song, is one that hits me every single time, because you know, my father is a song, and metaphorically, and Stephen even talks about that in a podcast about his dad, where he's like, this song is about the songs that mark time, but he's like, my dad is a song. And that's like a thing that exists, whether that's experiencing him energetically or spiritually or whatever that is. There's something that like this brings. It brings joy in the full sense of the joy, not in the joy tipping into the happiness side of the spectrum. It's this profound depth. It's this feeling of connection. It's this feeling of integration and embodiment that's just like yes to it all, like the fullness of it all with you. And so the meta answer to your question is I welcome it, I seek it out, but it's not something that is yeah, it lives, it breathes.
When I listen to Stephen Wilson Jr., it makes me think of, it doesn't make me think of, I mean, it does make me think of my father, but what his music does for me, it motivates me to be a really good dad to my son.
Yeah,
Because I envision, my son older and like I hope that he's gonna miss me when I go. You know what I mean? And
yeah, yeah,
it actually motivates me to be the best damn father that I can be because
yeah,
it's like I really love my kids, and I
yeah,
want them. It's not like I'm just selfish. I want to be, I want when I go, I want everybody to cry for me. It's like I want to have a relationship that is so important to the people that are most important to me that they don't want that pain to go away. Like they
yeah,
think about it every
yeah,
day. And like it actually motivates me a lot. And
yeah.
that's incredible. Yeah. Thank you, Mitch, for saying that. I know that was challenging, but also beautiful at the same time. And um, I think your dad is very honored by these song selections. And
Yeah.
um, and I also want to say, and I hope you agree, but there's like with Trashy Women and the Stephen Wilson, it's like we can hold both like the sadness, but also the joy simultaneously. And
Totally.
and it's just a beautiful
Hmm.
reminder of, and that's a gift that your father taught you, I'm sure, and gave to you. So
Yeah.
thanks for
Yep.
giving that to
Absolutely.
us.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you got a couple more songs, one more song, two more songs.
Yeah, let's go one more
We
song.
got one more song.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up with one more song here, and the title of this one is not lost on me. The song name is Fond Memories, but the artist is JRD and the Big Mistake, and um, this song is a great song. The song itself is not the reason that I chose this. I think the the type of music, the genre and the sound of this song is something that is fun and nostalgic to me and brings back to your and my connection where our conversations around country music revived a love of country music in me at this time where the country was not something I cared about in any form. I would say I like the classics. I like Hank Williams and I like Johnny Cash and some of the still more maybe rockabilly rock Americana side of country, but that I had kind of this revival that is really connected to music as memorabilia in a way that's like, how can this be this thing that I carry with me that allows me to remember these places and times. And so the sound of this song just feels like it's someone was like, write a classic honky tonk song. And that's what it feels like to me. But the actual artist is a personal friend of mine and not through music. When I lived in Minneapolis, I found my love for vintage motorcycles and tinkering on bikes, and also found my lovely wife. And bikes, tinkering on bikes, and my wife were a big part of my life out there. And I joined like a collective motorcycle shop, which was just like a big industrial building where you could rent out a little gurney and a workbench to work on your bike. And I knew nothing about motorcycles. My father had zero mechanical knowledge. He was a carpenter. He could build a house. He was a crazy athlete, but like he knew nothing. He didn't know how to change the oil. And so those are things that I learned on my own, and got into motorcycles and kind of like learned the art of learning and the art of just like figuring things out, which my dad was so great at. It was something that I bonded with him spiritually, not directly. Um, but one of the owners of this shop is Joseph, the front man in this band, and just super hospitable human, really fun guy, built some really cool motorcycles and created this space for motorcycle community. It wasn't about the workshop. It was about being able to sip cheap beer and listen to country music and wrench on bikes together and talk about things and connect and be seen and share. And it's still going to this day, the shop, and it's so cool. It's called the Moto Collective. A lot of really cool bike builds have come out of there. A lot of really changed humans who feel more connected come out of there. And so Joseph is the singer and front man in this band. And so this song feels extra special, as that was kind of my like an era that I didn't capture in the rest of these songs. And it feels really connected to that. So listen to Jared E and The Big Mistake and the song Fond Memories.
Well, that sounds exactly like Mel's Diner. Instead of motorcycles, we're greasy foods and jukeboxes. That sounds incredible, and that I just love. You shouted out a Vermont artist, and now this this art Minneapolis Minneapolis artist. Yeah, whether these guys are streaming millions of times or a couple thousand, like their music is super important, and it's important to you, and it is now important to us because we know how genuine those songs are. So, man, that's awesome. Mitch, I just want to say thank you for sharing these stories, sharing these songs, sharing these. I see the thread through all of your stories of like people. It's like your father, obviously the major one, but these people from your time in Minneapolis, and then the people currently in Vermont, and your teacher growing up with you share playlists with. Your connection to music, it sounded like when you were a kid, was personal, and then it became the blogosphere, or you're sharing things so much so that these launching companies are like, hey, this guy knows a lot about music and organization and like connections between artists. And then so it became from maybe something personal to you to like relational. Like the music is now taking you to special people in your life, and presently, or people from the past and places that you've been. And I love how that thread is through all of your jukebox selections today. It's not about you, it's about the people that have influenced you. And
yeah, absolutely.
My goodness, may we all have songs that not point to how cool we are, because Mitch, you're a pretty cool dude. Vintage motorcycles and living on a farm in Vermont, like you're pretty cool. But like these songs are like, hey, it's not how cool I am. It's like these amazing people that I've got to share part of my life with. And these songs take me to them. And now as we listen to them, these songs we can like, even though we've never met, most of us have probably never met the folks you've talked about, but it's a good reminder that art's meant to be shared and art's meant to build these connections. And that's what we love to do here at Mel's Diner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matt, thanks for sharing this chicken and waffles and French fries with hot sauce and Coke with me. I know Mel is out back smoking a cigarette.
Ripping a cig out back. Yeah, sitting on a milk crate.
And so when he gets back, make sure to shake his hand for me and thank him for letting me come in and throw some coins into the jukebox.
It has been a complete honor, Mitch. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Mitch, thank you so much for joining me here at Mel's. What an honor, man. Really. And thank you for sharing all that about your late father. I know he meant the world to you. And man, it just made me, like I said, it just made me want to love my kids, a little bit more, hug them a little tighter. So thank you so much. And I hope, well, I should not hope, I know that your dad is smiling when he hears you talking about these stories, especially Coffee Mama. Man, what a sweet, sweet song. And if you're listening, I want to say listen to that song first. Maybe not, but just get to it and just picture Mitch's dad, whatever he looks like in your mind, dancing with his mom in that garage. Oh my goodness. It pretty much almost brings a tear to my eye, but in such a good way. So thank you for that. Okay, so here at Mel's Diner, we like 10 songs in our playlists. Mitch brought 6 amazing tracks that hopefully you'll go listen to right now. So to round it out to 10, I am going to pick these last 4 to round out our 10 song playlist here. The first one is it's under the name Sturgill Simpson, which he is now known as Johnny Blue Skies. A song called I Don't Mind. And this one is actually from his Cutting Grass Volume 1, Butcher Shop Sessions. I Don't Mind. I chose this song for you, Mitch, because you talked about, the feeling of loss of your dear father in your life. This song, it's not really about that, but this song, it's such a great sound. But for me, I love soundtracks. And actually, if anybody's listening, my dream job in this life is to be a music supervisor, which is the term for the person who picks songs for TV shows and movies. Not a composer, not one who's writing songs for film and shows, but who chooses these songs that are already made. And of the music supervisors that I am aware of, Tiffany Anders, an LA-based music supervisor, is probably my favorite. She has done the music, or she has chosen the music for shows written and directed by Sterling Harjo, specifically Reservation Dogs and The Lowdown. And Reservation Dogs is my favorite TV show of all time. It is incredible. If you haven't seen it, it is on Hulu. There's 3 seasons. It is unbelievable. But there's this scene. Well, I should say this show, I don't want to give that too much away, but grief is a big part of this television show. And it's about it's a coming of age story with 4 teenagers dealing with the loss of one of their friends due to a self-harm accident. But there's this episode where this young lady, one of the characters, is hunting white-tailed deer in Oklahoma with her father, and they're reminiscing about the loss of their friend, of actually her cousin in the TV show. Anyway, Tiffany Anders picks this song, I Don't Mind, by Sturgill Simpson, when Willie Jack, the character, and her dad are leaving the woods and they're going to the gravesite to pay their respects to this person that they're grieving over. And I don't know, there's certain songs in certain TV shows that it's just perfect. It's the perfect sound to the perfect scene and the perfect mood that you're feeling. And I can't hear this song and not visualize that scene of Willie Jack and her dad driving away in this old Ford pickup truck. It's beautiful. It's moving. It's emotional. It's powerful. And with this song playing in the background, it just elevates this to a whole new level that communicates that emotion better than anything else. So I know, Mitch, that you are a huge fan of Sturgill Simpson, as am I, or Johnny Blue Skies. And so I want to pick this song for you first. I Don't Mind. Just incredible. And yeah, unbelievable. I guess the next one, track number, what would this be? 8 would be Motorcycle by Coulter Wall. Mitch, I know, like when I was living in the same town with you and your wife, you both had, Kawasaki or Suzuki motorcycles from the 70s. Super cool. And this song, I just think fits you so well. This song, Motorcycle by Coulter Wall, this Canadian country guy, just really, really awesome, kind of grungier, a little bit dirty, a little greasier than your typical country song. I love this track, and it reminds me of you, Mitch. This song actually reminds me of you. And Mitch didn't really talk about this in his interview, but he talked about working on vintage motorcycles, but he led some. He might still do it. I'm not actually sure, but he led like a gentleman's ride in Burlington and around the Burlington area, where these gentlemen would get all dappered up in wool suits and really cool haircuts and just drive around on these vintage motorcycles all over town. It was like a spectacle, but it was like one of those cool spectacles. If you saw it in real life, you're like, who are these amazing and really cool people? So there's the next one, Motorcycle by Coulter Wall. Track number 9 on your playlist, Mitch, is going to be Aunt Cynthia's Cabin. It's by an artist also known as Aunt Cynthia's Cabin. This is a very long shoegaze track, just really cool. In fact, I can almost like hear this song being played inside of your mechanic shop in Minneapolis. This song, if I envision what some cool vintage motorcycle workshop would look like or really sound like, this song would be playing in the background for sure. So I'm going to pick this one for you. This is Aunt Cynthia's Cabin with a track called Aunt Cynthia's Cabin. It's really, really great. And then finally, to round it out, like I said, Mitch is a super cool guy, very humble, very cool. He's had all sorts of adventures in his life. And I'm going to end this playlist with the White Buffalo and his track called Where Dirt and Water Collide. I love the White Buffalo. He's a Southern California Americana musician. And this track, I don't know, it fits well. I listened to a ton of the White Buffalo while I was living in Vermont, while I was writing my thesis, or actually when I was doing research for my thesis. I listened to the White Buffalo almost constantly, and I got to see him live there at Higher Ground in Burlington, Vermont. And when I think of Vermont, I think, well, a lot of it, the soundtrack is the White Buffalo, and this track, just where dirt and water collide, thinking about just different adventures and different natural landscapes and adventures that you can have outside. Mitch is an amazing skier and snowboarder. I think there's just a lot to Mitch Rovito. He lives life to the full. And yeah, I think these songs really represent him in my mind. So there you go. There is our 10-track playlist. You can find all of these songs in the show notes below, as well as the 5 songs by Mel's Picks that was mentioned at the top of this show. So thank you so much for joining me here at Mel's Diner Jukebox. I am so glad you're here. We drop episodes every 2 weeks, every other Thursday. So make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to this. If you'd like to leave a review for the show, that would be cool. But anyway, I hope that we just, we listen to these songs now through the connection or through the stories that we just heard in order to build connections with Mitch and with each other. So thank you so much. Listen to these songs. I hope you have a great week. Peace. Thank you so much for visiting Mel's Diner today. We love serving you those very important stories and songs, and we really hope you become a regular. If you or someone you know would love to be on the show, please reach out to me. melsdinerjukebox@gmail.com. And a playlist of all the songs that were selected from the jukebox today can be found in a link in the show notes. And now, as we listen to each song through the lens of those amazing stories, we share in the connection that we just built through the power of great music and incredible people.